in the top right. The red Zerg, the Hungarian dragon, Sziky.
Spawning here in the top left, we have our Polish Protoss, Bonyth, the former champion.
Yeah, pretty much the fan favorite here. There's probably people rooting for Sziky just because they're tired of seeing Bonyth win everything, you know? You start to root for the underdog.
Yeah. I was saying, I think we have a good chance of a mix-up. I feel like this season of BSL that it's not going to be Bonyth versus Dewalt in the finals. I mean, we very well could, but Bonyth just has a really hard road ahead of him. He has Sziky here first. If he takes out Sziky, he has eOnzErG, who knocked him down to the losers bracket in the first place, 3-1, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then after that, assuming Dewalt beats Cross, he has another PvZ against Crossy. So he has 3 really, really powerful Zergs to hit back to back to back.
Now, Bonyth does have pretty exceptionally good PvZs, so if anyone can do it, I would say it's him. And he has done it before. We've had quite a few BSLs where, you know, Dewalt and Bonyth are not on the same side of the bracket. Like, you know, one of them, like Bonyth, is down in that loser bracket, fighting their way all the way through to that grand finals, and they still face off against each other. Could happen this time around as well, but I think you're quite astute in your observation that it's still an unlikely prospect just because of how many good Zergs he's got ahead of him.
Yeah. Well, it's just funny because usually when one of them's fighting out of the loser bracket, it's because the other one put them down there, right? But this is one of those rare times where it wasn't Bonyth or Dewalt that put the other one down in the loser's bracket.
Now, Bonyth said it was because of a migraine, but who knows how much of that was truth and how much of that was an excuse. We don't really know, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he'll play some more great games today and not quite be falling below par like he did against eOnzErG.
Yeah, unfortunate for Sziky, he did get first scouted. I guess this was a 9-pull I wasn't watching, but since we're seeing double cannon, that is exactly what it's going to be. So he's going to be taking the third base as his first expansion here. Going to force the double cannon from Bonyth. Love seeing the double cannon. I don't like the probe pull because if you make a single cannon, that probe has to sit in your wall until a zealot comes out, and it's just so much lost mining.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the double cannon response here because they can always just flood more and more Zerglings and punish you still anyway if you pull the probes. You just make the 2 cannons and then, you know, everything's fine. And honestly, on paper, it might feel bad because you've made 300 minerals worth of cannons against a 9-pull opening of 6 lings. On paper, the Protoss player is actually ahead ever so slightly the longer the game progresses. So it's actually okay to make those 2 cannons and call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of Protosses, they want that Nexus, right? And you're right, it does feel bad where it's like, I just spent 300 minerals on cannons. Like, my Nexus is so much later than I would like for it to be. But yeah, the Zerg is taking a pretty big eco hit for this as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not a massive lead. It's like literally like half a percentage or a percentage point that you're ahead of the Zerg by making that double cannon. But it's enough that you can just, you know, not be so fussy about the Nexus being delayed and just call it a day. And you'll be safer later on. You can do faster Zealot move out timings and be safe against any Ling run bys and what have you. Overall, it just ends up being better for you as Protoss the longer, and it'll help you against a 9-7-3. Just make the 2 cannons and stop being so fussy.
Yeah. Stop being so fussy. I like it. Alright, third base coming down from Sziky. Sziky has shown us a lot that in this matchup he really just prefers to play the normal Spire opening. He'll do a few variations off of that, but he really likes to just open layer and play normal. Yeah.
I'm curious if we'll ever see Soma-esque cross-teching from these foreigner Zergs. I feel like that's the meta right now. Soma has kind of... I've talked about it in the past, about how strong cross-teching as Zerg is, and Soma has showcased in recent times just how strong it is. It's pretty unscoutable. Like, you can even fake the Protoss out by like taking all 3 of your gases and then just not mining from the gases and still going for a Hydra Bust pre-storm. Like, this, it's almost impossible to scout from the Protoss side of things. You pretty much have to suicide Corsairs to know what's going on.
Yeah, we saw that actually from Sziky yesterday where he tried that against Dewalt, and somehow Dewalt sniffed it out because Sziky showed double gas in Spire one game and he made several extra metas. And then the next game he did the exact same thing, showed double gas but dropped a Hydra and didn't make a single muta, went straight into Hydras. And Dewalt did not bite at all. Like, he didn't make a single defensive muta or cannon in his mineral line or anything. He just started making forward cannons in as well. And I was like, I don't know what he saw that showed him this is what was happening, but he just knew.
Yeah, maybe he kind of just understood how he was thinking and was like, okay, this is probably to trick me out. Like, you're not actually going to do this. And once I've seen it, you're probably not going to commit to it kind of thing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Bonyth and Dewalt, kind of similar styles in this matchup. The only difference, I think, is that Bonyth will lean more into gate expands a little more often than Dewalt does, from what I've seen anyway. But typically, they're both kind of the same, like, strong, standard, just have a good, solid defense, don't take any damage, be a little bit of the aggressor sometimes early, and just kind of get into that mid-game, you know, death ball control.
Well, if you want to go macro, I think Forge is the opening, but Bonyth is a more micro-centric player, so maybe he'll sometimes like to open with that gateway first and put the pressure on and exploit his superior micro. But he also probably really respects Sziky's unit control. Like, he knows just how good Sziky is with micro, especially with Zerglings, that maybe just going for the Forge and playing it safe is the right play long term.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for players like this, it's easier for them both, I think, to just do a feeling out game, right? Because this is the most standard you could possibly go for so far. It's been Forge expand. I guess we did do a 9 pool, so maybe slight aggression, but that's almost like comfort for Sziky. I swear this guy's opening 9 pool more often than most Zergs.
Ooh! That's insane. Like, he saw that the Corsair was ever so slightly drifted away from that cannon, so he knew the second photon cannon shot wouldn't land in time. Yeah. Could find that connection. Really sick stuff, man. Like, killing one Corsair might not seem like a big deal, but it's a really big deal. Really slows down the timing of when he can actually come out onto the map with those Corsairs and be comfortable. And yeah, now he can't play the proactive role anymore. Suddenly Sziky has a bit of an advantage slowing down Bonyth like that.
Yeah, and you know, that extra Corsair, that's one less Templar later as well, and these StRyKeR's actually going to come in here and get a little bit of a scout around now. Maybe hoping to catch another Corsair, not going to get quite so lucky. But yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, he's just making sure that Bonyth is still committing into Corsairs. Like, some Protoss players might be like, okay, I'm going to cancel +1 and stop making Corsairs and just go Zealot Templar, if that happens. He's just making sure that Bonyth is still playing as he should be, and, you know, remaking those Corsairs to a high count. Then he knows how many ScrG he might want to make, if he wants to make 5 mutas or not, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
That would be very scary to do against Sziky. I feel Sziky has shown us time and time again he really likes doing the Hydra muta if he catches any of your Corsair at any point.
Yeah.
So I would be terrified to cut Corsair against Sziky.
So would I, man. Yeah, you definitely should probably stay in that Corsair production against someone to get, oh, catching these Zealots a little bit. Not quite getting a perfect surround, but does gobble up one of those Zealots, and any kill is a good kill right now. He's going to get a try and get a tactical snipe on this Forge, and killing a Zealot makes it even harder for Bonyth to challenge this and stop the upgrades from being cancelled. It might still finish in time because Sziky's not really targeting down that Forge. He's kind of pre-splitting his Hydras out to hedge his bets against Storm, because it is already past the 8-minute 30 mark and Storm should be done around now. So he doesn't want to lose too many Hydras to the Storm, but he will get the upgrade actually before it's done.
That is a big difference. That is one, you know, when you get that +1 attack, it takes one less hit to hit, one less hit to hit a Hydra, kill a Hydra as well as Lings, right? So that +1 actually is a pretty big break point in these fights.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And even just the psychological advantage as well. Like, sometimes that can be a factor. Like, whenever something doesn't go well for the other player, it can just knock their confidence ever so slightly, and also give Sziky confidence of, like, hang on a minute, I can beat Bonyth, you know, and suddenly he gets that winning mindset in the moment and starts playing like an absolute madman.
These additional for gateways from Bonyth are actually really late. We're still sitting on only 4 gateways. We're only going up to 6 as well instead of 8. He's going double Forge because he lost that Forge. He had to make a lot of cannons because he didn't know exactly how many Hydras would come across the map, and his Storm timing wasn't quite on time.
But that all comes down to the Corsair being sniped, because he then had a slower move out timing with the Corsairs, couldn't confirm, is this an all-in Hydra bust? Is this just a fake? He didn't know for sure. So he now has to hedge his bets and really hinders his infrastructure and his own timings as a result. All because he lost one Corsair.
Yeah. pretty insane. We got that +1 here done for these Hydras, so they're actually going to shoot through the Zealots pretty quickly. Bonyth going to do a little bit of a light move out here with the Zealots and the Templar to push these Hydras back a little bit. Going to catch a couple Overlords for his troubles as he causes Sziky to retreat all the way back home.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. Sziky, though, already taking a 4th base, man. I mean, he's pretty ahead of schedule right now, and he's also got a macro hatchery up at this 3rd base. So he's going to have 7 hatchery worth of production. That means he could, if he wanted to, play BattleZerg and just stay on lair tech for a while. Like, you don't have to rush Hive if you've got like 7 or 8 hatcheries worth of production. You can kind of keep up with the 8 gate and not worry too much. And he could also go for a contain. That's another factor, because Bonyth's Dragoon production will be slower than usual.
Yeah, Bonyth not able to get out on the map just yet, and we have Lurkers started. We had a big gas bank from Sziky. It was at 1200, so I think we just started a fair amount of Lurkers, and there's a chance he does get set up before... Oh, was it Mutas, or were these defensively morphed Lurkers? Okay, it is
Lurkers. Yeah. He's got at least 2 at the front and more back at home. So, kind of calling the clock on Bonyth. I don't think he has an observer for a while, and because the Lurkers are split, it's 4 storms to kill those. It doesn't feel good to waste 4 storms on 2 Lurkers, and he's killing High Templars with a small pack of Hydras as well to make the bust out potential just that little bit weaker. Bonyth gonna try and pull as many Dragoons together as possible. So far, the contain hasn't been reinforced from Sziky. A little bit surprised to see him not pull the trigger on sending out those Lurkers sooner. Maybe there's a way Bonyth can still break out of this. He's got a pretty sizable amount of Dragoons right now. Definitely think he's capable of doing it, but he also has to not get his observer sniped.
Yeah. The window is closing for Bonyth to come out kind of for free here, so he's going to have to fight his way through here. Goon Storm can very slowly chew its way through this. But Bonyth is on a little bit of a timer. Right? We got a few minutes until he would run out of mining, so he wants to obviously break out before that happens. Sziky is on 4 bases, adding those extra hatcheries on the right side as well, the bottom right base. So he's going to have a lot of production, a lot of income. And basically his goal is to make this as miserable for Bonyth as possible, while he's mining very happily on the other side of the map.
What's critical is that Sziky has already saturated the 4th base while all this is going on. Usually you want to maintain the contain and wait until the Protoss has failed to break out before you saturate the 4th base. But the game has gone well enough for Sziky that he's been able to kind of have his cake and eat it, set up the contain and saturate that 4th base. But it also does make the contain a little bit weaker than it could be. So Bonyth might still have a strong chance at breaking out, and he's killed that Overlord, so now can't snipe this observer, at least for the time being, and he gets a bit of a 2-for-1 trade with those 2 Lurkers at the bottom. So it looks like he is breaking out here. And yeah, Sziky, despite having a strong economy, did sacrifice how strong this contain could have been to get that eco online.
Yeah, Bonyth breaking through here pretty efficiently. The Zealots kind of joined the fight after all the Lurkers were dead, so they don't just get evaporated by all the Lurkers. But I mean, Bonyth does get out with a fair amount. Sziky does have a lot of economy on the other side, but his supply dipped down quite a bit, and Bonyth is still at a scary supply. He's floating 1,600 minerals right now, and that's kind of... It's pretty typical of Bonyth, to be honest. He's so efficient with his units, and he does get macro cycles while doing it.
Yeah.
I've become a big believer of that is just the more efficient way of playing the game.
Well, this is very Snow-esque. I always compared Bonyth to Snow. He's quite literally the foreigner Zoe in how he approaches the game. He's always slipping in his macro and his infrastructure in some way or another, but his unit control, almost second to none. It does do a lot of the heavy lifting for him. So as long as he trades well with what units he has got, he should still be okay. But he's going to try and get a 3rd base up right now. He's kind of screening Sziky by keeping this main battle force out on the map, forcing Sziky to play a bit more turtle mode, whereas really he's just gearing up to expand.
Yeah, Ziky's stuck in a very defensive posture right now, and honestly, Bonyth's supplies, his army is really, really scary. I think he's a little bit light on Templar right now, so he's probably replacing some of those. We're actually going to see those storm drops come down. We did see yesterday that Sziky got torn apart by these. We'll see how quickly he pulls. Ooh.
Oh, it's just a Zealot hit squad. It was like a double bluff. Like, I'm going to storm drop you. No, I'm not. There's nothing in it. Oh, wait, there's some Zealots to kill your drones anyway.
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting interaction. It was like, Bonyth flew in, he saw Sziky react, and there was like a dance where he's like, oh. You saw me.
For like 2 seconds, I considered, is there a possibility that shuttle is empty and he's just baiting out Sziky into losing mining time? But actually, where Zealot's committed to that. Does actually kill some drones. But Bonyth is being a little bit greedy. He's trying to double expand and take 12 o'clock as well. This is very ambitious, but if Sziky maintains a turtle posture, it can actually pay off. And 4-base Zerg, while strong, it doesn't always match up to 4-base Protoss if you haven't got a quick hive.
Yeah, absolutely not. I'm worried about, the size of the players right now. We saw this game state a lot with Sziky, where he was looking pretty strong at certain points, and then he gets to this stage, and it's just very hard to fight a Protoss that's very good with these large armies like this.
Yeah, I mean, just because he's on Battle Zerg mode, you can't let the Protoss get a 4th base. I mean, that's kind of what Battle Zerg is supposed to do. It's supposed to keep the Protoss on 3 base and never let him take a 4th. But he's not been successful doing it. Oh, the shuttle does get taken out. Pretty big win for Sziky. Good splitting of the Hydras as well to avoid storm value, while also a counterattack coming in at the natural third of Bonyth. Just predominantly Zealots here to defend. Lurkers getting to position now to catch any reinforcing army in transit. But those Lurkers are really stacked up, so they're very stormable, but might storm his own observer if he's not careful. Luckily, doesn't do that. But yeah, Sziky going to get some damage done to this 3rd base, and it's actually much needed. You can't just let Bonyth get up to 4 bases for free.
Yeah, this has actually been a really nice moment for Sziky here. He's going to trade out relatively efficiently. He's not going to kill the base, but he did kill some of the workers, and he traded against the army decently. We did see that huge storm go down, but it didn't quite kill the lurkers, so they get a fair amount of damage before they go down. And, when the dust settles, we're a little bit even on supply. He's not been able to saturate this 12 o'clock base, which is, really good for Sziky so far. It's also threatening this base, but coming up here on the high ground into these storms, it's never a good feeling for Zerg.
No, I think he's going to crack the cannons, but the reinforcements should arrive from Bonyth in time to clear this out. But there was an opportunity for Sziky to get like a 1-2 punch combination, kind of like pull Bonyth back and forth between the 12 o'clock and the natural third and try and at least kill one of those bases in the process. But so far he's been unsuccessful at killing either of them, and now he's just traded off a lot of his lurkers. So this is going to get problematic. There actually is a lurker run by at the natural third right now, where there's nothing to defend against this. If Bonyth is not paying attention, could lose a lot of probes really quickly. He now notices right as the lurker is starting to bury down. They're only going to lose a few of those probes, but it is shutting down mining. He's got no probes at the 4th base, so Bonyth locks back onto 2-base economy temporarily.
Yeah, this is a really nice fight here from Sziky again. Just like you said, pulling Bonyth back and forth, and he's going to end up being able to deny this base, which is a huge moment here for Sziky. So it's going to knock Bonyth down to 1-base mining, actually, when the dust settles here. And Sziky, he hasn't been growing anymore. He's just been all units and all fighting and just kind of keep the pressure on Bonyth.
Yeah, no, this is exactly how Sziky kind of should be playing, because of the earlier win condition fell through, where he couldn't necessarily deny the 4th going up. But this is like the next best contingency, where you just turn the Protoss player into like a meching Terran, where their units are a little bit immobile, and you just keep stretching him thin, pulling him around the map, and keep setting up these little 1-2 punch combinations to hopefully do enough economic damage to claw your way back into the game. I'm not sure if Sziky's getting his tech up back at home. He's certain, no, he's not. So he's pretty much all in with this strategy, but it is working. Like, he's trading well enough with Bonyth that he should actually win this game at this rate.
Yeah, and he's just going to keep coming over and over and over again. And Bonyth is going to start running out of steam now, right? He's just down to that 1-base mining, so the production's going to slow down pretty drastically. Sziky is going to be mining out on his 3 bases probably in the next few minutes. But honestly, if he's keeping Bonyth on just 1 base this whole time, that's more than enough.
Yeah, I think Sziky just now threw down a Queen's Nest just in case he can't quite hammer. Oh, it's an Evolution Chamber, excuse me. But yeah, there's a chance that he doesn't quite hammer in the coffin nails, and it seems like he's going to play wider rather than deeper and take a 5th base as well, just to keep the engine rolling the longer this game goes on. But it does seem like he's got enough tools in his arsenal to bleed Bonyth dry in this game. Bonyth is going to be mined out in his natural now as well, which again sets him back down to 1-base mining. It's not feeling good for Bonyth. He's not going to find those value trades he needs to win this game anymore when Sziky's got this much of an powerhouse of macro behind him.
Yeah, both players actually kind of slowing down a little bit right as their bases start to dry up. We do see that extra base coming down for Sziky. And this is good enough. Like, Sziky can just keep fighting, keep him on this one base, and that's a good enough win condition for him right now. Ooh,
Yeah.
nice. Oh my god, these spawns just killed everything. All the Temple are going to go down. One Archon lives to tail the tail.
This is kind of crazy, man. I mean, he's definitely bleeding Bonyth dry. He's going to try and assault this base at 12 o'clock. This Templar does have a couple of storms available to it, but it's not going to be enough to kill the rallied Hydras as well. GG is called, and a pretty convincing game number 1 lead for the Hungarian Dragon Sziky, man. He's looking pretty good. Bonyth could be in trouble.
Yeah, looking really good, and that's probably going to give him a lot of confidence as well coming off that win. I'm glad to see that he's still playing sharp and playing on point, and that's kind of the thing that I've talked about this a lot, something that I don't have that I wish I had, which is that at the highest level, your bad day needs to be a good day, right? So basically, no matter what, your lowest point still needs to be strong. Not to say that I think Sziky's playing at his lowest point, because I think he looked pretty sharp here. Very decisive decision-making, right? Yeah, doing a good job of just kind of knowing what his win condition is and fighting nonstop.
Yeah, I think what you're basically trying to say is you want a strong autopilot. Like, no matter what happens, you're at least playing the game at like an 8 out of 10. You might not be playing at 10 out of 10, but you're playing good enough to keep up with most of the good players. And that's really important. You don't want to be one of those like really inconsistent players where one day you're beating everyone, the next day you're losing to B ranks or something. You know what I mean? Like, you really want to have a strong autopilot.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I had to correct somebody in the Twitch chat.
Don't get one guide, okay? Don't get one guide. Let them be armchair casters that think they know what they're talking about. You're in the caster booth. They're a sausage monkey. Leave them to it, okay?
Yeah, I've started pinning messages now on my YouTube channel. Anytime someone like talks trash or something, those get the pins and the hearts from me from now on. I love that kind of stuff.
I mean, me personally, I know you like to argue with trolls, but I actually find trolls quite entertaining either way, as long as they're somewhat funny.
Yeah, for sure.
You're one of those guys that just enjoy arguing with them.
Sometimes. A little bit guilty.
All right, I think both players are ready, so we're about to jump into our next game coming up. It's going to be that Screaming Sea map. Let's get it. Bonyth versus Sziky, game number 2. Spawning in the top right, as Protoss, the Polish Bonyth.
And in the bottom left here on Screaming Sea, we have the Hungarian ZZERG player Sziky.
Yeah, so historically speaking, pretty strong ZZERG map. But as you pointed out, Bonyth is pretty confident on this map, and it's not always easy to translate pro gamer statistics into the foreigner leagues and the lower levels, if you will. So yeah, maybe Bonyth can still pull out a victory here.
So the only reason I feel like I like it for Bonyth, especially in the foreign scene, is that as far as like foreign players go, the way ZZERG needs to play this map is unlike anything else they play normally, right?
That's true.
It's a
That's
very
very
unique
true.
way of playing, whereas Bonyth gets to play Reavers and Carriers, which Bonyth is more than happy to be playing.
He loves that. Yeah, he wants to play on this map for that reason, because he gets to use his favorite units, right? Like, when else can you make carriers against ZZERG unless you're already winning the game by leagues and miles?
Yeah.
So you reckon that's what he's going for here? Reaver, Sarah into carrier? Is that what your prediction is?
Yeah, that's what he's shown us every time so far on this map. We'll see if he wants to do something different. Maybe try to catch Sziky off guard with something a little bit unique, because he also knows that Sziky knows what he's going to try to do, right?
True,
and I'm curious to see how Sziky wants to handle this situation, or if maybe he just understands. Because we saw a little bit in some of Bonyth's games that a lot of the ZZERG players didn't seem to understand just how vital the air control is. And I know it's very hard against like mass air, right? It's extremely difficult. I do know from my experience on PGH that air armor upgrades just outscale Corsair insanely hard.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we usually see on maps like this, is like the ZZERG player is just stacking Flyer Carapace, and even though you're getting that early fleet beacon, you usually go 1-for-1 with the upgrades, so the ZZERG is ahead when they're even on upgrades like that. So yeah, it doesn't always feel good. There is actually, by the way, a build that Sziky could go for here, which would be one way of like completely smacking down Bonyth. It's something that Shine does. He'll take the natural third, like, oh, I'm going to make the third here because you're going to block my natural, but really it's to have a faster rally point. And he's going to go, and you can go 2 base lair into a lurker bust. And because you have the faster rally point, you can make all of your hydras at the natural third to get your lurkers there really quickly. I don't necessarily think that Sziky will do that, but it's a great way of slapping down Protoss players that are trying to optimize for Reaver and the carrier.
Yeah. Yeah, we see that off-put hatcher. This is pretty common when you're playing a 12 hatch against just a pylon block, right? You end up in this situation. Obviously, you don't want to take your 9 o'clock as a third. It starts getting a little bit too uncomfortable in case they are going zealot pressure.
Yeah. I'm not too surprised to see Sziky go for a more, you know, non-cheesy style here.
Yeah.
I think that he feels confident enough that he should be able to take this game down, even if Bonyth does get into his Reaver. But having to make that hatchery a little bit off location, it's a bit of a win for Bonyth already going forward.
Yeah, especially since he got to open 12 Nexus as well. So getting to go 12 Nexus and mess with the natural hatchery is kind of a Protoss dream, actually, if you think about it.
Kind of is. I mean, to be honest with you, though, like 12 Nexus is so common on this map, it almost doesn't feel greedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. These 2 lings do slip in, actually. I'm gonna kill... Was that the second probe or the first probe? Yeah, just one probe.
I think
okay.
just the what first. Yeah, nothing crazy just yet. But they can slip into the main now. Maybe get some follow-up damage.
Yeah, bit of a nuisance here for Bonyth to deal with. And Sziky, insanely fast. Like, he won't miss a beat while controlling these lings.
Yeah, he's pretty good task switching. Luckily, the Zealot's not really lagging behind too much, so he hopefully won't take too much damage here. But you can still kind of bait the Zealot all the way out and then go back in to stab a probe. Does take a punch combination on one of those lings already, which is nice for Bonyth. Ooh, good manual control of the pathing there to get more damage on that ling and finish it off.
Are you surprised to see Sziky make extra lings here? You think he's going to try to run through?
I think so. I think he's going to attempt to run by. Oh, if there's nothing blocking, he could even just get an execution on the cannon, because Bonyth's being a little bit greedy trying to chase down this ling.
Yeah, so he sees the Zealot and Ling as and Goon here, so he actually is going to try to pull the trigger here. Unfortunately, he doesn't have Ling speed, so he's not going to be able to get on top of this cannon very quickly. But the Zealot's not going to get back in time, and there's no probe pull either. So this cannon, oh my god,
close. He's got it. He gets it. Ooh,
yeah. So the cannon goes down.
Go on.
Wait, it's open on the top as well. I thought it might have been, but the way the Ling pathed backwards, it made me doubt it.
Yeah, there's 2 holes here. But it does look a little bit strange. That's the weird thing about StarCraft. You have to kind of test it out to know for sure what is a wall and what isn't. And especially relative to like doodads and cliff edges and what have you.
Yeah, gonna see that 4th hatchery coming down for Sziky here to kind of fix the mining and the natural now. But I mean, look at how much long-term damage that pylon block does, right? It's actually kind of crazy.
It literally cuts the mineral income by like half, roughly, overall. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Luckily, he was mining pretty optimally in his main and natural third, so not too terrible. And the Robo coming down at 6 minutes, that's it's actually a little bit slow for a Reaver, so you probably want that closer to 5 minutes 30, 5 minutes 40. Oh! Catches a Corsair, that's huge!
That is massive. Yeah, the first Corsair going to go down without getting any information either. I mean, he more or less can kind of surmise what Sziky's doing at this point after running into the Corsair, or into the Scourge, I mean. But still, that's... You don't want to be losing Corsair either way, of course.
Oh, and a bit of a run by with some more Zerglings. Cannon not quite finished in the main base. He's going to have to pull probes off the line to try and stop that. And either way, he's going to... Oh, no, he caught another Corsair with the Scourge. Ozzy, this is starting to add up. And he's going to get a couple of probes on top of it. Bonyth in a lot of trouble here. Going double Stargate and losing your first 2 Corsairs, probably one of the worst things that can happen to you.
Yeah, and that cannon getting killed too. I mean, he's going to have to rebuild that cannon. It's going to be the second cannon he's had to rebuild, so there's going to be 4 cannons total that he's going to have to be making, as well as using a couple probes and a couple Corsairs. So far the damage from Sziky adding up pretty well. Drone saturation looking pretty good on the natural and third right now. Could obviously get a few more rounds of drones if he wants, but Fourth base going down very, very early. Hydrogen on the way. And yeah, I think this has been a good opening for Sziky so far. Supply looks scary for Zerg, but it's pretty much all Corsair at this point.
Yeah, supplies, some people seem to think that you can tell what's happening in a game of StarCraft based on supplies alone. That might be right like 8 times out of 10, but there's a lot of nuanced situations which don't tell the tale. This is one of them, and Sziky's getting a pretty fast 4th base behind this. He has cross-tech available. He's getting a Den as well as having that Spire, so he can kind of do anything he wants. He only had 2 gas for a while, now he's taking a 3rd. The sky's kind of the limit. Like, he could, you know, go crazy with an eOnzErG style mass mute a Scourge after killing those 2 Corsairs, or he could just make a crazy ton of Hydras and put pressure on. Looks like Bonyth going to be going for an island base in the center of the map, trying to get some damage onto these Overlords with the Spore covering, then in conjunction with the Scourge. Not going to find much damage there, so Sziky holding strong against the initial pressure timing.
Yeah. Oh, that sunken unfortunately seems like it's messing with the gas quite
it is.
Yeah, that's actually really painful because the gas he recognizes that. Gonna have to kill it right away, so kind of unfortunate for Sziky, but yeah, definitely has to bring this down.
What's funny is that Sziky knows that that would block his gas, but in some situations you just throw down the sunken thinking that that's a good Sim City spot, and you just kind of forget that it messes with your gas if the Evo's on the right, and kills most of the Scourge with only 1 connection. That's not terrible for Bonyth, you know. Like, he has lost the first 2 Corsairs, but now there's no Scourge in the sky to shut these Corsairs down. They're going to get a lot of scouting information and try and pick off an Overlord or 2. Luckily, most of the Overlords are pretty safe right now for Sziky, but this is also distracting the Zerg player from identifying this island base that's going up right now.
Yeah, he did get the scout with the Overlord at least, so he does know it's there, but he's just not able to do anything about it. The cannons are going to be coming up now. Was that a probe transfer with the shuttle? I imagine it is.
It should be. It should. Oh, wait. Oh, he's just going to defend the island. He's worried about a drop timing from Sziky. Some Zerg Scourge connections, I think they only killed 1 Corsair with another couple taking hits, but in an ideal world, after killing the first 2 Corsairs, he would want to, you know, go heavy into mute a Scourge and actually stop this island from even going up. So Bonyth was wanting to be more proactive with his Corsairs and kind of keep Sziky on the back foot while this expansion was going up, but he actually didn't technically need to do it because Sziky was not optimizing for air superiority anyway. He's actually, despite going into 4 gases, not really making many air units at all.
Yeah, I think he made a few Hydras just to maybe help with the Reavers as they come down. But we're still making Hydras. But there's no way he gets a drop-off at this stage. There's so many Corsair.
Yeah.
It would be a disaster if he ran into those.
Well, he probably should get drop tech, but not to attack Bonyth, just to take his own island expansions.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's good that he's
gone. At least one of the islands. If you can get like all the ground bases, right, the 2 on Bonyth's side as well, which obviously it is kind of hard, but
at least there's 1 Bonyth based. Yeah, the natural 4th you should take no matter what. Not necessarily the natural 3rd, but the 4th 100%.
Yeah, we see a bunch of Overlords going towards the north side here. He actually might be looking for a bit of a drop. If the Corsair snip this out, he's kind of hoping that the Sarah will be in the middle here, trying to protect this base while he's actually going for a drop into the main.
Yeah. It's funny because the Corsairs are kind of like hovering between the Overlords and defending the island. I think he knows that there's a chance of this happening, but I don't think he has identified that possibility just yet. And Sziky is going to take that island in the top left, which makes total sense, so I like to see that. Finally see that fleet beacon. That's not to get carriers right now, that's just for the +2 weapons upgrade. He'll eventually maybe get those carriers, but for the time being, just going to commit into this Reaver Ser style.
Yeah, if Sziky went straight into a 2nd armor, he's going to have a really big window where he's going to have +2 armor. And +2 armor mute a Scourge actually destroy +1 Ser. Like, it almost doesn't matter how many Ser you have at that point.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah, you're not wrong. And there's that drop starting to move over there now. There is a Reaver in the main base of Bonyth, though. He is kind of hedging his bets against this potential play from Sziky. He's kind of anticipating a bust at the front with the Reaver in the wall, but also a Reaver in the main base. This is pretty good defense from Bonyth.
Yeah, we even saw extra cannons coming down as his drop is coming across the map, so I can't imagine that Bonyth is going to take too much damage here. And the scary part for Sziky is these Overlords probably all
the
die.
natural. Oh my gosh, he's gonna just all the natural. He's gonna try and just dive bomb on top of the Reaver, and there's not that many Corsairs here, so if those 3 go down, D-Web does come out to try and force the Hydras to not be able to fire, to overrun this position too quickly, and the Reaver does slug it out from the main base down here to help defend. The D-Web actually coming in a little bit clutch here, shutting down a lot of the DPS of these Hydras. And there's not that many reinforcements for Sziky, so this attack actually been quite successfully handled.
Yeah, those Overlords did not seem to be very full, actually. A lot less came out than I was expecting. It was like 5 or 6 Hydras total.
Yeah, it was very low commitment, wasn't it? It was almost like a pressure build, not even meant to kill him. Maybe the real drop is going to be happening at the island expansion here. Ooh. And just distracting Bonyth to pull everything back to the main base, especially the Corsairs, opening up this pocket in the center. There is 1 Reaver and 5 cannons. It's a decent amount, but not enough Corsair support to drop the D-Webs to shut it down completely. So maybe... Okay, he doesn't actually quite have enough Hydras. Am I crazy? Did he just not load up that many Hydras again?
Yeah, it looks like he's bringing all the Overlords, but he's got like 10 Hydras with 10 Overlords. I don't know if Sziky knows that you can have more than 1 unit per Overlord, maybe?
I'm sure he does. Doesn't seem like it, though, in this game at least, but got to be going into that Greater Spire. He's yet to saturate the mining bases at 12 o'clock and the island in the top left. He just lost a bunch of Overlords, so he's going to be supply blocked for a while. Meanwhile, Bonyth starting to get into that carrier production now of 3 Stargates. He can also get a 4th Stargate to really optimize, well, especially once he gets this 4th base online.
I'm curious, did Sziky get +2 air armor before Greater Spire? Okay, he did.
Yeah,
okay,
he should have done. He should have done. It's almost crazy not to.
Yeah.
I guess you could make 2 spires, but yeah.
You could, yeah. Neither player quite looking there, so the Ser and Scourge are going to cross pass, but there's a bit of a window where we're only +1 air attack right now, but we don't really have a lot in the air for Sziky. He does have a really big gas bank, so if he wants to go into, you know, there's no storms right now, so Muta Devour actually would win the air pretty hard right now. When there's no storm, the Greater Spire tech actually does insanely well against this tech from Bonyth.
Yeah. And if there is a crazy amount of Corsairs, Ensnare is an option as well. Like just 1 Ensnare, and suddenly those Corsairs are easy to catch, and they do not shoot fast enough to stabilize the situation in the air, and they're just basically dead in the water at that point. And you don't even need that many Devours. Like even with like 4 or 5, with just 2 volleys, you've already got the full stack of 9 acid spores to make them take massive damage and shut down their DPS. And we're going to see those Devours being made now. Go on.
I feel like a common mistake that I see with Zerg players when they're playing against this is they overmake Devours, right? Devours themselves, their DPS is actually kind of trash. They're actually like a super tanky support unit, more so than meant to kill anything themselves.
I think it depends on the game state. So like if they've got a really high count of carriers, sometimes you want to overmake Devours, because with like a whole control group of Devours, you can start to volley off carriers off of the map. But until that time, you don't need that many. If it's predominantly just, you know, a few carriers being supported by Corsairs, yeah, like 4 or 5 might be enough.
Yeah. I'm curious if we'll see Sziky try to do the moving shot, because it doesn't work. Every time I've seen it so far from Zergs, they try to do it because they don't realize that you can't moving shot with Devours.
No. It's actually really easy to anti-micro with Devours. Sometimes no micro is the best micro with Devours. It's kind of crazy.
I did learn recently you can actually do the Valkyrie micro with them, though, to make them fire.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I haven't really experimented too much with Devours. I know that if you give them too many commands, they kind of glitch out and don't even shoot. Yeah. But I'll have to check out the Valkyrie micro with them to see if there's any fanciness that hasn't yet been discovered.
Yeah, it's pretty unrealistic that you're ever in a situation that you're doing it. The only reason I know is because I was watching some people play the micro map, and they had to look up some videos and figured it out. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I do agree that if you're down to like mass carriers, the Devours actually are pretty good at that stage, because the mutas just kind of die a little bit too quickly, and you know the attack speed slow doesn't really apply to the carriers. That's one of the things about them, is they kind of bypass that. Whereas the Corsair, though, when they get stacks on them, become completely dead in the water.
Yeah, the main thing is you want the acid spores on the carriers just to evaporate their armor and make Mutalisks be able to kill them reasonably quickly. That's the main thing you're worried about. Okay, well, carrier's gonna get a cancellation on this base up here. I don't think Sziky's gonna save that in time, but Sziky also only just recently saturated this base, so he's a little bit behind schedule with mining out Bonyth's minerals and gas on his side of the map.
Yeah, he is currently mining 2 of the island bases, though, which is more than Zerg usually is allowed to have. So if he gets to sit on these for a very long time, he will actually... And yeah, see there we saw the attempted moving shot, so... It's just, when you do that with the Devours, we're actually getting on quite a few of the carriers. I think 2 or 3 of them at least went down. Devours can flee here now, but you see how slow these Corsairs start attacking when they're fully stacked like that.
Yeah, they hardly shoot at all. It's kind of insane. And not a bad start for Sziky. I mean, he did kill a few of those carriers. The Scourge running into them almost looking like a campaign cinematic or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far so good, I would say. With Bonyth's got +3 weapons. He's also getting shield upgrades to help put a bit of tankiness onto those air units, which is nice. And so far so good. As long as you keep Bonyth locked on these 4 bases, the game is yours. It's just never letting Protoss take another base is basically the aim of the game here.
Yep. Yeah, if the game continues as it is, you can't help but feel that it's going to be pretty heavily Sziky favored in the long run. But it is a little hard to protect these bases because the carriers can just show up and insta-snipe a Nidus or something, and then it's very, very hard to defend.
I feel like one thing that Zerg players don't do enough is just make overlords and just have overlords all around the map to spot for the carrier movement so you never get caught off guard by it. And another thing that they tend to hesitate to do is make the spellcaster units. Like, one Defiler with Plague is insane. One Queen of Ensnare is insane, but so rarely do Zergs actually do that. They kind of get tunnel vision on just going for this composition and nothing else.
Yeah. No, it's actually, that's something I was thinking about mentioning earlier too, because I 100% agree with you. It's the thing about this is like Zerg wants to use a lot of different spellcasters. Like anything that makes a color appear on your opponent is what you want, right? You want them to be purple, green, red, but it's a lot of work to do.
All the colors of the rainbow.
Yeah.
Ooh, the mutas are pretty much already dead. He's doing a good job of targeting those down right off the bat. He has finally got all the acid spores on the Corsairs, but it's too late. You need to kind of go in a bit delayed with the mutas. He's kind of running in too early with the mutas while you want to do like 2 volleys with the acid spores, and then as you've got the second connection with the acid spores, then the mutas are running in.
Yeah, you're just going to go morphing those now, loading up a few in the overlords here, but not really sure where he can drop at this point. Every base is pretty sturdy. So I don't think as Sziky you're really looking to kill any bases anymore. You're just trying to outlast your opponent from here.
Yeah. I mean, look how many bases he's got. This is pretty much how you play this map. You just go mass expand and try and lock the Protoss player into his corner of the map for as long as possible and bleed him dry. Just like Bonyth going to try and make some headway now. There is Nidus connection set up here, so might be able to get in with some reinforcements soon, flooding through that Nidus canal. I like the usage of D-Web. It's a nice touch here from Bonyth. Very APM intensive, but especially against Hydra, it really does help Reavers do a lot of damage.
I like that during this attack, a bunch of drones came through the Nidus. Like that's what was coming to help the fight.
We just need to quickly mine the base up before it dies, Ozzy.
Well, he does hold on to the base at least, so that is a win for Sziky.
Yeah,
you know, Bonyth is getting a pretty big bank, but he's going to be drying up kind of soonish.
It's just taking him too long to get another base online. Like, he's not making much headway in this game, unfortunately. Like, he's challenging the base of Sziky a little bit, but he's not even killing it, and he's not even establishing his own 5th base. So, yeah, this is not a tenable position for Bonyth. The longer this goes on, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah. You know, Bonyth, he's very good about making sure his carriers never stop moving. so that the interceptors stay out. He's going to be re-attacking this base here now. There's a few Hydras that have rejoined, but the Nidus now. This is what I meant. Like, it happens so fast that you don't really get to use the Nidus all of the time.
Yeah, he's going to go into the Devours now, but again, needs to be careful with how he engages. Oh, even an Arbiter. That's a great addition to this unit composition from Bonyth. I mean, at this point, I feel like Sziky needs to get a Defiler and just get a good plague on the Corsairs and or the carriers at this point, because he's losing the air battle, actually, to Bonyth.
Yeah, there's just not nearly enough in the air for Sziky. Very light on the air, and the Hydras, you know, they're really not that good in this situation against these units, you know, with the D-Webs and the Reavers being mixed in as well.
No.
And you kind of need, like, a ton of Hydras to be able to fight carriers.
At least with Dark Swarm.
Yeah, with Dark Swarm as well would be good, right? Like, if he's defending these bases with Dark Swarms and Hydras, then that would be fine. But as far as, like, trying to take, like, a head-on fight or something, or it just doesn't really work very well for Zerg.
Yeah, Sziky might be a victim of that thing we were just talking about, how Zergs get tunnel vision, and they make nothing but Hydra, Scourge, Devour, Muta the entire game, and never make a Queen, never make a Defiler, and it ends up coming back to haunt them. He's still in a pretty good spot, but Bonyth is already on the path to a comeback in this situation. He can start to take this 6 o'clock island for himself, and it's not been that mined out. It's going to give him a lot more gas in the tank.
Yeah, well, Ziky's almost out of mining, right? Like, Ziky's down with no bank whatsoever. Bonyth is maxed with a 6k, 3k bank, and Ziky's running very, very light on minerals. It's kind of like a... It's kind of a last, like, I need to do something type attack here coming down for Sziky. But this isn't going to trade very well with the Storms and Reavers here in the cannons. This is going to get eaten alive.
Yeah, there's a reason why you don't see many Doom drops from Zerg in versus Protoss matchups. That's why, because all your units are clumped up after unloading, and like 1 or 2 good Storms and the drop is over. And it's not even a good position to attack. Ziky's just going to tap out. Man, I gotta stop seeing Zergs play the map like this. I know they're not pro gamers. I don't expect the world from them, but just make some spellcaster units, man. Like, you really can't be that tunnel vision.
Yeah, well, you just gotta remember too, like in ZVP, it's the same as a normal game where you're looking to get value with your spellcasters later on. That's how you start out trading. It is going to be those plagues and ensnares and things like that to catch them and weaken them up so you can finish them off. But these like, what was it, like maybe 10 Devours and a handful of Mutas, like that'll never be enough. Even with max spores, you're not gonna be able to finish off that many Corsair and carriers.
Yeah, the only way you can win with pure Devour, Muta, Scourge, Hydra is if you're so far ahead of the other guy that it doesn't matter. But Sziky took so long to saturate all of those bases that he took that he wasn't in that position. He was ahead, but not enough ahead to justify that unit composition forever.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I do think it's very difficult for Zerg to play because they have a bit more to do than Protoss, right? And like I said, it's not something Zerg is ever practicing. They're never practicing these air battles with Queens and Queens, Devours, Defiler, things like that. It all kind of needs to be used in tandem, and it can be hard, especially because Protoss can kind of sit in the dead airspace a lot of the time, and they get to choose when a fight's happening, and I think that's part of what makes it very difficult for a lot of Zerg players.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it is what I just think if Ziky's gonna pick Screaming Sea, maybe he needs to keep his options open more, because after that game, pretty much every foreigner Zerg that I've seen play on that map has made the same mistake. It seems to be a bit of a trend. Like, I don't know if it's because they don't fully come to grips with the dynamics of the map. I know pro gamers can pretty much play any style and be competent at it, and maybe, you know, it's a little bit off meta to what the Zergs are used to, so they're a little bit lackluster with the execution. But I almost feel like if you're that uncertain of how you should be playing, relying on the spellcaster units makes even more sense, you know what I mean? Because it kind of makes your job easier.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Bonyth, like I said, I just think that's kind of a comfort map for him, at least against the foreign scene, right?
Seems so, right?
He gets to use all of his favorite units in one game, and gonna take that win. So the next map is gonna be Polestar, gonna be a much more standard map pretty much for the rest of the series now, we got a lot of the standard maps. Makes sense that Bonyth would ban Dominator as well. That's kind of a notoriously tough PvZ map, especially against Hive Zerg players.
Yeah, it's evened out a little bit statistically, but overall it's been a pretty Zerg favorite map in all of its games that have ever been played. But both players are ready, so we're jumping right into it. Game number 3, Polestar, Sziky versus Bonyth. Let's get it. And spawning here in the bottom left, that Hungarian dragon, Sziky.
And at the top left here, currently tied the series 1-1 with that last game. We have our Protoss, our Polish Protoss and Bonyth.
What's your predictions for this game?
I think it's going to be relatively similar to the first game. I think Sziky will probably want a bit of a kind of a factory reset here and maybe do something a little more comfortable and go with this typical Spire, Scourge, Hydra, 5-hatch, maybe 6-hatch, just kind of standard play.
The third gas is a little bit easier to take and harder to attack into relative to Radiant, I think. So if it does get into that situation, maybe it'll be a little bit more Bonyth-sided than it was that first time around.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. And I think we're getting a gate expand here from Bonyth, so he's going to be looking for that aggression, which... Yeah, so going to be looking for those Zealots early. Is going to be overpull here from Sziky.
Yeah. Sees the Overlord with the probe. Yeah. Kind of feels nice for Bonyth to get the first scout again like he did in game number 1. Like, it's technically a luck factor, but I think Protoss getting the first scout is like shooting up their win percent by quite a few points.
Yeah, I'm sure Sziky is getting potentially a little annoyed here. This is 3 games in a row now, right? Where he's got to probe in his natural before he can drop the hatchery.
I mean, I've played enough like Protoss versus games where they scout you first, like 3 or 4 games in a row. It doesn't feel good.
I could see myself tilting pretty hard. This would be a mic off moment if I were streaming.
It's almost like playing Terran and getting cross map 12 Nexus or something. It kind of feels like that much of a sting.
Yeah. Yeah, the important part is when stuff like this keeps happening is you don't get in your head about it too much, which again I'm not good at, but it's very important that you don't start getting into a negative mindset, because once you do, then everything starts to feel unlucky. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you stop recognizing the good things that are happening.
Yeah, you get like a confirmation negative bias, right? Like everything is going wrong and you never identify anything that's going right. And you definitely downward spiral mentally at that point. And we've talked about it a lot, just how important the mindset is for StarCraft. It's as much a mind game as it is a physical game, and a lot of players seem to forget that in the moment.
Yeah, he's going to poke in here. They're going to see the Zealot. Knows that there is that second Zealot going to be on the ramp, so doesn't try to go for a run by or anything like that. Going to pressure the Zealot or the gateway a little bit, try to bait the Zealot out to get us around, but not quite able to get this around. And now with the second Zealot coming out here, I was going to say, we can't really commit up the ramp. He should know that that's up there being blocked. But this is great splitting from Bonyth, not taking any damage and getting a few extra swipes on the Lings as well.
If I'm being totally honest, Sziky seems a tiny bit tilted. Like, just the way his Lings are moving, like, he's not quite playing with the same... well, I don't know what the word for it is, but there's a little bit less finesse in his unit control. Not by a huge margin, just because I know what he can do relative to what he's doing right this second, that he might be ever so slightly tilted, or at least not, you know, in the flow state, let's say.
Right. Well, does get 4 Lings in, but now has to worry about these counter Zealots coming across the map as well, so he's going to have to make a bunch of extra Lings to deal with that. And that's... was it 3 Zealots? Yeah, it's 3 Zealots coming across the map, so you need, what, about 12 Lings to deal with this typically?
Yeah, against Gateway first, you tend to pull up to 12 initially, and then you'll either add more if you want to be hyper-aggressive, or just replace Lings if you trade a little bit poorly and what have you. But basically, you stop droning and get up to 12 Lings, almost no matter what, against Gateway first, just to be safe.
Yeah, does clean up the Zealot in the main with 3 Lings left over, so that's going to be a little bit of a pain for Bonyth to deal with potentially. We'll see how well he responds. Gonna lose 1 probe, but how much damage is going to be done on the other side is the question. These 3 Zealots with a probe could tuck behind the minerals at some point as well. We are going to get the pick on the probe pretty early, but we don't have enough Lings to fight this yet.
Yeah, you kind of want to utilize the HP of the hatchery as a resource and like just buy time for more Zerglings to arrive and then go in for the engagement, kind of like how he's doing now. But Bonyth's still finding really good trades, but some damage in the main base of Bonyth while this is all going on. Some probes going down and a cannon being made. He's actually glitched out the Zealot with a lava being made into an egg there. I'm not sure if he lava tricked it or if it was just a happy coincidence, but it might be a lava trick considering how the egg is placed.
Dude, these 3 Zealots have killed so much, and that's such a Bonyth thing. Even gonna kill the drone on the back side of it. The amount of value those 3 Zealots got is pretty insane. You know, we looked away and we came back and we see 1 Zealot with 2 HP and the other one with like 10 HP, right? And they just all were still alive after killing, what, like 8 to 10 Lings?
Yeah. Bonyth pretty good at controlling Zealots against Lings, it turns out. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that Bonyth had good unit control?
Crazy, right? Also, it's going to be that 3-base Spire. Let's see if he gets a second gas early or not. I imagine he won't get it super early. He might get it soon. But he might be considering opening up with 1 or 2 pairs of Scourge and then 5 Mutas to put on pressure. He has banked a lot of gas, so he could go for that. But first, he's going to make some macro hatcheries.
Yeah. Yeah, just gonna... I mean, it's always interesting to me when I see ZVP against Gate Expand because Zerg makes so many Lings for so long and it feels like they have no drones for so long. In the little bit that I played Zerg, it always felt bad, like so bad to me because I know I'm just massing Lings to stay alive while they're pumping drones the whole time. But honestly, I guess the thing is like once you clear enough Zealots with your Lings and you start having Lings left over, then you can just pump drones kind of non-stop for a while.
Yeah. That's the hardest thing about Zerg, is knowing when to make units and knowing when to make drones. Obviously, at the amateur level, people aren't super optimal, but that's why it's so fun to watch the pro gamers like Sziky or Soma, because they always seem to end up doing the same build orders as you, just squeezing out like 1 or 2 extra drones because they've optimized it so well.
Yeah, so they're gonna get in there, gonna get the first scout, or the full scout. Does see the second gas was up and mining, so he now has to respect the possibility of mutas behind these Scourge.
Yeah, and this is a nice potential tactic from Sziky, so Bonyth is going to respect that and make a safety cannon in the mineral line, just in case there was 5 mutas quickly behind this. There's a little mini game where the Scourge keeps zoning out the Corsairs so the mutas can snipe the probes. You kind of have to make at least 1 safety cannon in this situation as Bonyth, and he's actually making 2 in his main, which is to respect the possibility of like a no-gazerg gamer move.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of similar to what he showed us against Dewalt, where he shows a quick second gas, forces the Protoss to respect the possibility of muta, and then just swaps into quick kind of a 5-hat Hydra.
Yeah. Well, tries to catch a Corsair in transit from its rally point. Not quite finding that, but I like the attempt. It's nice to see. He's going to now put on pressure onto the wall of Bonyth. One of the advantages for trading well against the Zealots early is you can actually kill this Forge and, you know, get rid of that upgrade timing. And that's another disadvantage for going Gateway Expand. You know, your upgrade timings can be a little bit slower than you would like as well. And that's going to get sniped as a result.
That Forge must have been very close, because Bonyth was ready to sack some Zealots to try and get it to finish. Yeah,
I'm sure it was like between 96 and 97%, somewhere around that margin. It was pretty darn close.
Yeah. Alright, well, Hydra's going to kill the Forge for their trouble, also going to kill a Zealot there as they break open the wall, and, you know, Bonyth is going to see more Hydras coming across the map. He's going to preemptively pull the probes, because Sziky is going to be pulling the trigger here with this many Hydras.
Ooh, he could break these cannons, you know. Like, the probe pull isn't that good. It's not denying surface area. Like, mainly you want these probes to block the Hydras from getting in range of the cannon, and he's not been that successful at doing it. There is a bit of counter damage with, of course, there's killing some Overlords over at the base of Sziky, but he is breaking through the line. There's a High Templar just popping out, but it's not going to be enough to defend. DG is called. DTs would have been the answer to stop that attack, and he just didn't have them.
Yeah, nice execution there from Sziky. You know, he showed Bonyth mutas and then came in with Hydra, and it's kind of hard for Protoss because you have to respect the possibility of the mutas, right? Because you know, you do make that single cannon, or if you skip the cannon at all, then suddenly mutas show up with Scourge, and you're just dead to that as well. So that is part of the hard part of PvZ, is the information gathering. You do have to surmise things sometimes, and unfortunately, as just a well-executed Hydra swap there from Sziky, if you can even call it a swap, I don't know exactly what I'd call it.
I call it it's cross-teching is basically what I call it, where you're representing both techs, but you choose one of them, obviously. And as long as the Protoss has to respect both, they usually won't be optimal against either, is the thing. And if you look at like win percentages on a graph, it's always been that the highest Zerg win percentage is pre-storm, right? Which usually you'd think, okay, that's just a 973, but it's not just 973. It's any Hydra bust that comes before storm is ready, and that's what we saw there from Sziky. It wasn't a 973. It was just a pre-storm Hydra bust while cross-teching and representing the possibility of muta, and that's what is the strongest way of playing Zerg, in my opinion, against Protoss.
Yeah, it's tough because it's not only did he make the defensive cannons, but he also keeps making Sarah, right? It's like an off timing kind of 973 almost, right? With a little bit more eco and more you know, potential behind it, because it's another one of those builds where, you know, Zerg can play out of it, but if you don't respond correctly, you just die against it as well. And with that win, Bonyth actually is one loss away now, guys, from being knocked out of BSL21.
Crazy. And Sziky was considering quitting this game. Can you believe that? Absolutely insanity, if you ask me. But yeah, going back to what you were saying about it's kind of like an off-timing 973, I would say it's more like a full-hatch Hydra bust, just with a slightly delayed timing. It still hits pre-storm, but the strength is not necessarily the Hydra bust on its own, because if you just go into full-hatch Hydra, it can be stopped, whereas if you represent both techs, not so easy. We're going into the game number 4 here, though, on Metropolis. Let's get into it. Spawning here in the top right on the Zerg race, Sziky, that Hungarian dragon.
And his opponent back against the ropes right now, down 2-1 in this series. We have our Polish Protoss player Bonyth, the defending champion.
Down 2-1 in the loser bracket. Crazy. Times are changing.
Times are changing.
Change is the only constant, Ozzy.
If Bonyth loses here, the only question is which Zerg gets second place.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's kind of a funny thought now that I think about it. Oh, Bonyth is gonna get spicy. This is either in-base 2-gate or a 1-gate tech play of 1 base. Both are viable. Usually you don't see the 1-base tech plays that often, but they're very viable. And it's cross map, so 1-gate tech would actually be even more viable here in this situation. He's not going to go in-base 2-gate. He's not going to do that. This must be a tech play, right?
I hope so, because I think in-base 2-gate against Zerg is borderline unplayable.
At the higher levels, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're like a D ranker or something, then probably pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately for Bonyth, Sziky is a little bit higher than D rank, but it is actually going to be an in-base 2-gate, so Bonyth disagrees with me. Maybe he'll show me something different, but with it being cross-spawn as well, that is worst-case scenario for Bonyth.
No. Not like this, man. Like, there's a reason you don't see this build very often. Don't get me wrong, Bonyth has great micro. Maybe he can still make it work. I just don't think it's optimal, to say the least, and he doesn't know it yet, but cross-spawns is just going to make it that little bit harder as well. He knows that Sziky doesn't open up with a lot of 12 hatches or 11 hatches as well. So I'm really surprised by this, you know? Like, it just doesn't feel great.
I will say, I think for in-base 2-gate, you would be more unhappy to see a 12 hatch. Because they would just have access to those extra larvae. And
cross map, yeah, but close spawns, I would think it's fine. Although good Zergs will still hold a 2-gate with 11 hatch. 11 hatch more so than 12, because the creep is out quicker, which means you can sunken up quicker as well as having the earlier lava access.
Yeah, and this is a 10-12 as well, not even a 9-9, so the Zealots are going to be a lot later and slower. But he's just going to keep pumping Zealots off these 2 gates. We'll see what he gets done. He is sneaking 1 Zealot around that's kind of bypassing the vision here, and I think it's actually going to stay... Ooh. Yeah, I think it stayed actually just outside of vision. It was going towards the Overlord, and then it cut up. Yeah.
I thought the Overlord was going to see it, but I think it was like 1 hex tile away from being spotted by the Overlord.
Well, Sziky ran past it anyway. I don't know if he noticed, though, because he was watching those lings down here.
Yeah, and there's so many ways you can follow up 2-gate. Like, you can be super greedy, try and take a quick Nexus and just go eco-army style. Or you can go more tech-centric as a follow-up. Seems like Bonyth is going to do the former. But either way, it's not easy to play this style against top-level Zergs. Like, they've played enough ladder games where they kind of have this mapped out.
Yeah. It does catch 1 ling there in the main, so it's only 2 lings, not super threatening for your probes. There are a lot of Zealots coming across the map right now, but it is so far to go across the map that the Sunken's going to be done in time with these lings, and I think once these Zealots get deflected is when Sziky can kind of comfortably start droning up again.
Yeah, just to emphasize how mapped out this is for Zerg, this is basically what happened when Lava was playing with his feet, because Legend did proxy 2-gate in his natural, and Lava knew how to handle it so well that he basically did what Sziky's doing, but macroing lings and drones with his toes.
Yeah, and a quick layer follow-up also very good because of how late this gas is, right?
Yeah. I kind of like that Bonyth is getting a gas. I think it would be a mistake to just throw down the Nexus and play greedy. I kind of prefer the gas option from Bonyth, but I still don't like the overall choice of the in-base 2-gate.
Yeah, Ling's going to finish up. Going to pick off 1 probe there, but that is going to be all before those Lings go down. And is Sziky still massing Lings? It looks like he is.
Yeah, ooh, does get a little bit of damage on those Lings as they run by. This is just to make it harder for Bonyth to keep rallying Zealots across the map. You can see those 2 Zealots over there are going to stay back at home. He has enough Zerglings to stop the Zealots getting up the ramp, is one of the main things here. Going to be able to intercept this 1 Zealot that's being very brave and trying to join his brethren.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, looks like we are getting our cannons up now, going to be starting the Nexus relatively soon. How far are we from... I mean, our core only just now finished. He's going to need to make cannons in his mineral line, actually, for these metas.
Yeah.
And these Lings are going to get inside and make that hard for Bonyth. And this is exactly what these Lings are trying to do, by the way. They're just looking to deny the cannon from coming down so that the metas can end the game.
It'll be a long time coming. It'll be a long time coming since that becomes relevant.
Yeah, I completely misjudged.
It's okay, it's okay. But just doing damage to the economy of Bonyth is more than enough because, you know, even if he does make those cannons, it means he has to cut somewhere else as well. Like, either way, he's not going to be super optimal at holding this. Because he's also got to canning up his natural as well as his main.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the Stargate on the way here, going to be finishing up pretty soon. We'll start those cores there. But yeah, he's still going to need those cannons either way. And Sziky has been making a lot of Lings and very, very few drones, but he is killing probes on the other side, which does help mitigate a lot of that kind of drone skipping that we're doing.
Yeah, he's actually got like idle drones on the ramp. Like he's so focused on doing damage with these Lings, he's actually just got drones chilling out up here.
Yeah, that's 4 drones actually. That's a lot of eco for him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for Zerg, it's a really big deal. Like, it is technically still only like 50 gas per minute per worker, but for Zerg, that adds up to a lot more, because Zerg, generally speaking, have a lot less workers.
All these Zealots do come home. He's got a ton of Zealots for his cannons here in the wall. Sziky, not realizing that he has all those drones there, is actually hurting him quite a bit at this point. They've been sitting there for a while now.
Oh my gosh. He might just not know. Oh, can he notice now? Oh, the problem is that every time he like goes back to his main base, the heads-up display of his interface is hovering over that. Like he won't actually see the drones, right? Unless he moves his screen manually. He's kind of flicking between the 2 spots. Oh, I think he notices now. He maybe should have noticed, but didn't.
we are going to catch one Corsair, which is nice. Bonyth's going to make it kind of annoying to try and pick him off, but he's going to be able to pick that off. And he's now playing it with Scourge and Mutas, and these cannons are not done in either base right now. And there is a potential here that Sziky can kill quite a few folks. Did finally find those drones too, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got the cannon to like micro back and forth between, it's one thing, but not having the cannons, the Scourge are just going to zone out the Corsairs and have a field day. One cannon warping in, he actually targets down the wrong cannon first, but it doesn't matter. Bonyth's in a lot of trouble, and straight up Mutas beat straight up Goons any day of the week. So yeah, Bonyth is in a bit of crisis right now, trying to stabilize and taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, and we just don't have the Corsair to deal with this. Goons are absolutely horrible at killing Mutas. They're mostly there to try to tank for the Corsair, but one of the Corsair gets picked off by the Scourge, so we're just with a single Corsair now against these Mutas, and you can't help but feel that this main base is dead. We're going to see a bit of a desperation attack here from Bonyth, because he's just got to make something happen, because with the way the game is going, he is going to be dead and out of the BSL.
That's crazy to think about. I'm so shocked that he went for this strategy this game around. I really almost wish I could interview him and just be like, what's going through your head, man? Besides another migraine. He's going to actually camp the Stargate and kill another Corsair as well. He's got just one Corsair and a couple Lagoons and a prayer to hopefully hold on in the main and natural while trying to do that run by. Sziky can drone drill the ramp from the low ground, though, and buy some time for the Mutalisks to chip away at these Zealots. They actually will make a little bit of headway in clearing out all the Zerglings and the Sunken, but he should be able to clear up those Zealots with reinforcing Mutas and extra Lings that are being hatched.
Yeah, 4 Goons come out now with this Corsair, gonna try and fight these Mutas, but a few more Scourge even show up and going to catch the Sair. Almost does get one connection, but another Sair does finish. I mean, Bonyth, he's still not even able to clear these Mutas. He didn't do any real damage on the other side of the map, and I don't think he can save this main base anymore, John.
No, I mean, if he had a Templar Archives, maybe we can get an Archon and then call it a day, but he's not even got the Archives, Ozzy. This is rough.
Yeah, a couple more Goons do come out to try and help defend, but more Mutas join the fight as well. Gonna target down these Sair first because the Goon DPS is kind of negligible against the Mutas. Another Sair comes out just as the last one dies, but none of these Mutas really going down. Maybe gonna kill one, not even. Yeah, one Muta goes down. I think 3-2 for the splash. And PG gonna be called, and Sziky gonna win 3-1, knocking Bonyth out of BSL21 here in the losers bracket.
Wow. If anything, I'm actually really grateful this happened because maybe it'll make Sziky second guess quitting the game. You know, like he needed this. Didn't he say to you, like, I need to win this season of BSL to not quit the game? Well, maybe that will happen now because he is a Zerg versus Zerg specialist going up against eOnzErG, who knows, might be a little bit tilted about losing to StRyKeR in that pretty gimmicky way. I think Sziky can take eOnzErG in a best of 5, that's for sure. And that will put him through, if he does do that, to that loser bracket finals. Definitely could go all the way to that grand final spot and surprise us all. It would be really great to see Sziky take a silver medal if he can't get gold. And I certainly think he's capable of either of those feats.
Yeah, I think he absolutely is capable. Yeah, I'm really happy for him getting this win here over Bonyth. You know, when I was talking to Bonyth this morning, he said that I should root for him because if Sziky wins, I have to cast more and more ZVZs. So, I mean, he's not wrong. Luckily, I've become a little bit of a fan of ZVZ recently. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that match against eOnzErG. eOnzErG kind of showing us that against StRyKeR that he is a very, very powerful tempo style Zerg. But Sziky also the exact same, so there could be kind of a crazy clash between these two players.
Yeah, it's going to be like literally fighting fire with fire, and we could have fireworks as a result. It might be one of the most explosive ZVZs we've had in a very long time. I'm kind of looking forward to what happens between those two. There's been really some really great series of games. I'm glad that neither of them was a 3-0. I thought for a second there that eOnzErG was going to 3-0 StRyKeR as well. So I'm really happy that StRyKeR did that like big brain 400 IQ drone block on the ramp. That was really funny to watch. So yeah, I would say overall I'm really happy with how these series panned out tonight. I hope you guys in the chat enjoyed watching it too.
Yeah, super happy. You know, we have 3 Zergs left now and 1 Protoss hero. Gonna have to do PVZs for the rest of the tourney here. Gonna have to go up against Crossy, and then he'll get another one of those in the grand finals. But yeah, really looking forward to next week. I assume it's next week. We're casting these next week. Do we know?
Go on.
Do we know? Are we doing? What exactly? Because the matchups are a little bit weird, right? With the way the bracket is. How much are we doing on Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, that's a good point, Zero. Would you mind queuing us in?
Yeah, so I am unmuted. So what we will do is on Saturday we are doing the loser bracket semifinals and winner bracket finals. And then on Sunday we are doing loser bracket finals, and then next week on Sunday we are doing the grand finals.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. I think I'm doing all three of those, right, Zero?
Yeah, you signed up. I guess you and Azzy are both signed up for the next week. So
yeah, we're doing all three of them together. That's cool. I thought so. I was just making sure.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to that then. I'm really hoping for a mix-up. I mean, this already is a bit of a mix-up, so I'm like super hyped already.
Yeah. That
we are going to get at least a second place Zerg player, right?
No matter what. Yeah,
which is pretty hyped because it's been pretty Protoss and Terran dominant, right, for most of BSL.
Yeah, it has. It's kind of like been the polar opposite to how the ASL is going in the pro circuit. Like foreigner Zerg's having a little bit of a tough time, but in the current era, there's a lot of great up-and-coming Zerg players that have really come into their own. eOnzErG definitely one of them. He's grinded out so many years now, and he's finally getting the fruits of his labor in these recent years. So would be super cool if he can somehow beat Sziky as well. If he does beat Sziky, that would be a massive notch to add to his belt, man. Like taking down a best of 5 CVZ against Sziky, not many Zergs can say they've done that.
Yeah, Sziky likes to talk about, or he doesn't like to talk about it, but I've heard him talk about how much he doesn't like ZVZ. But every time I watch this guy play ZVZ, he looks like an absolute god at the matchup. So
yes,
I'm really looking forward to seeing these two clash.
Sziky, he's got such a strange mentality about the game. It seems like the way he thinks about the game and how he plays just doesn't seem to align. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go over to talking a little bit about the sponsors of this great event. We really do appreciate all of you guys keeping the lights on here at the Bombastic StarLeague. Firstly, pointing out these one-time big donations. CRVT, he always comes in clutch pretty much every season, dropping some massive stack of bones, like $2,000 this time around. Also, jziriy, $1,400, StRyKeR himself with $600, and more of you guys throwing quite a few bills our way to make sure that Zero's got as much love and support as possible to keep the show running. And then also we got these Patreon guys who are supporting on the regular every single month, starting with the Wolf of Wall Street at $200 a month, Andrew, the Bombastic General at $100 a month, My Fleeting Dream, Bombastic Colonel, $50 a month, StRyKeR himself again, Bombastic Major plus Tupocalypse and Torso Driver, and then Bombastic Majors at $20 a month, Chaosu, KJ, LML, Medino, Nicholas Schuler, Scheming Gypsy, and Steven Robertson. Thank you so much to all of you guys that help support what we love to do. It means so much of us to keep this tight-knit community of StarCraft alive and thriving.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it gives me a job to do as well. I really enjoyed kind of joining the casting scene and being a part of this. So
yeah, I would say you're a good fit. You're definitely a good fit for the casting scene.
It's been a really good experience for me. I feel like I've started to enjoy it more and more. I've met a lot of cool people doing it. Didn't really know Machine much before I started casting with him. Like I've always heard he's like a nice guy, but yeah, I've been able to cast with him and get to know him.
Yeah, he's a really cool dude. Really super cool.
Yeah, almost suspiciously nice, actually.
Yeah, he's like got that psychopathic charm where he's luring you into a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I love to be at a cast with you guys, man. Like I wouldn't have it any other way. StarCraft has like been a major part of my life for 25 years now. It's what I love to do. So just having the honor of bringing you guys these casts, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I will echo that sentiment for sure. But I think that's going to wrap it up for us here today. Great games today. Really a pretty big upset, honestly. So a bit of a shake up here in the BSL, and looking forward to seeing how this one concludes in the next coming weeks.
Absolutely. Well, I've been Jean. With me, Arzi Dahaki. We'll be joining you very soon for more great games of StarCraft. We're going to be doing all of the remaining coverage of this event together. We look super forward to it. We'll see you there in the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.